Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, all fears, all laziness, all doubt, anything in your sentient self. It's in your tops of your mind, your left and right brain, to your hands and your feet that control your organs and the rest of your kidneys and your liver, to the rest of your consciousness, to your eyes and your ears, your nose and your mouth, your gates, that Yahuwah controls and that He's giving you control over through the Ruach Kadash. Bring your mind unto balance. Bring your thoughts and your mind unto balance. And every single thought that tries to exalt itself against the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach, against the bar, against Yahuwah's word, who sits in the highest Shamayim above the 7 Shamayims, above the 7 celestial circles, the one who sits above all gods and all Elohims, all both male and female gods and goddesses, the one who gives life and understanding to us, and may walk in newness of life, and may walk in newness of heart towards every human being, towards all the creatures of the earth, toward each other. For today is a day of freedom. Today is the day to be free from your old self, from the spirit of deceit. Today is the day to be free from who you are and who you are as a human being, to be free from all of the things that weigh you down. For today, we give all honor and praise to the one who made everything on this Shabbat. And even all throughout our life, as one has been negligent, we now seek to be reestablished and reconciled with the one who gave us life, who formed and shaped us in the womb, and the bones in the womb that we have tried to comprehend within our own natural self, but yet we cannot, for it is infinite. So today we acknowledge the one who made all the heart of the earth, all of the waters and streams and rivers of the earth, the one who allows them to flow and allows them to flood, the one who made all and formed all of the jaggeds of the rocks, that causes all landslides and all types of ra in the world, the one who wounds, who kills, who makes alive, the one who allows us to live and to breathe and to have within our thoughts, Yahuwah Elohim, with his Ben Yahusha, who helps govern all. For all authority is given unto him in Shamayims and the earth, to give understanding and life to all those who reveal himself. For we live in this world, we are not of it. But yet we live in a world, and we live in a world full of other things and other beings that seek to control our thoughts and our mind, that seek to control who we are, seek to take us from who we are and who we were before. So as we move forward in kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, amuna, and self-control. We move forward in the harmonic frequency of ahab and love, and we will no wise clear the guilty, not only ourselves and others. For this is, the truth and the gate to Shamayim, right? So this is the book of Hebrews, what they call Hebrews, the book of Hebrews. Book of Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, so we're surrounded by Shamayim, we're surrounded by Malakim, we're surrounded by Yahuwah and his Malakim and his Sabaoth, and he's looking down on us right now. We're so surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, they're watching everything you do. They cataloging every single thing you've done, just like Enoch, Hanuk we read about. Don't you say in your heart that every single deed that you do on a day-to-day basis is not being written down every single day in front of the Malakim and Yahuwah himself. And they are presented every single day. You so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin that clings so closely. It clings. It'll hold to you. You be like, why I'm so heavy? Why I'm so tired? Why can't I move? Why can't I do this? Because it clings to you. Sin clings to you. Adultery, fornication clings to you like a big weight. It's like 100-pound talon of some unknown element that holds to your body. That's what it does. Anger and resentment and bitterness holds to your body. It allows your body to become poison. It takes control of your poison in your glands and your capillaries and your bloodstream. It allows your body to become poison. Envy and jealousy shortens your life. It messes up your liver and your kidneys. These are all things that are weights. And they weigh down your organs, they weigh down your shoulders and your neck, they weigh down your mind. And then guess what? Gives you all types of pains in your body. Right? It says, and sins which so closely, and let us run. You can't run without, if you have all that. You ask the greatest athletes in the world the type of discipline they gotta have in order for them to continue to do what they do. They have to keep their body in a certain type of way. They have to keep their blood in a certain type of way, their thoughts in a certain type of way, their body strengthened in a certain type of way. Their understanding has to be mind, body, and soul, like mentally. He said you can't run a marathon like that. It says, and let us run the endurance race that is set before us, looking to Yahusha, the founder and perfecter of Amunah. So looking at him, he is the founder and perfecter. So he's already done it. He's already done it. You're just the CFO. Right? You're the administrative. Right? You're in research and development. He's the founder of it. And guess what it says? Who, for the Simcha that was set before him, endured the cross. He endured totality, despising shame, and seated at the right hand of the throne of Elohim. You can't do that with a bunch of weights on you. You can't do that with a bunch of weights in your thoughts, in your mind. You can't do that. You have to walk in newness of life. You have to walk in the righteousness that he's prescribed. Why? This is Bereshit 26, Genesis 26. Genesis 26, Bereshit 26 and 1. Bereshit 26 and 1. It says, now there was a famine in the land besides the former famine. So there was a disaster. Right? Just like you see, they call it natural disasters. But it's really a supernatural disaster. Because Yahuwah sent his Malkuth to destroy the world. Destroy that area. And get what it says. And guess what? He says, beside the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. So there's many famines. There's many types of them. And it says right here, and Yitzhak went to Gerar to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines. And Yahuwah appeared to him and said, do not go down to Mizraim. So we look at all these disasters in the world. He said, don't go into Mizraim, because Yahuwah talking during these times when things happen. He's speaking. He wants you to know something. It says, Mizraim, dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. He said, dwell in the land I'm to tell you. Wherever I tell you to go after, when you see the famine, pestilence, earthquakes, when you start seeing floods and all types of things, he said, go to the place I tell you. And he says, sojourn in the land for which I will be with you and will barak you. For to you and your offspring I will give these lands. And I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father. And I will multiply your offspring as the stars, the Kukab of Shamayim. Why? Because we're the people of the stars. We're the constellations. And guess what? And will give your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring, all the nations of the earth shall be barak. Because Abraham obeyed my voice. He obeyed my call, my thunderbolt, my voice, my thunder. He obeyed my voice, my vibration. He obeyed my commands. He kept my charge, my commandments, and my statutes, and my laws. Because Abraham did it. Right? Because he did it. Right, so you look at him, you look at Abraham, and he did these things. Let's see what happened. He did the commandments. He did all of it. But let's see. And it says, we're going to the book of, this is book of Genesis, Bereshit chapter 12, verse 7. Genesis 12 and 7, Bereshit 12 and 7. It says, then Yahuwah appeared to Abraham and said, to your offspring I will give this land. And it says, so he built there an altar to Yahuwah, who appeared to him. From there he moved to the hill country of the east of Bethel and pitched his tent. Now he pitched his tent. He moved this a hall. That's what we're getting ready to do. We're getting ready to dwell in tents. And he pitched his tent. And guess what he did? With Bethel on the west and Aydah on the east. And there he built an altar to Yahuwah and called upon the name of Yahuwah. So every place he went, he built something. He worshiped Yahuwah every place he went. Anywhere he pitched his tent, where he stopped. In his temporary dwelling places, he pitched his tent, he built an altar. He put some effort into his life. And guess what happened? And Abraham journeyed on, still going toward Negev. Now there was a famine in the land, so you look at all the famines. There's a lot of famines on the earth. There's a lot of famines. Go to Matthew chapter 24, Matthew 24 and 1. Matthew 24:1. Matthew 24:1. Matthew 24:1. 24:3. It says, and as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the age? so they want to know something. They want to know when all the disaster is going to happen. When all this, because we talked about how you need to sow your seed, cast your bread upon the waters. It'll return to you in due time. You'll find it soon. He said, for you don't even know what type of disaster is going to happen. And guess what happened? And he says, and Yahushua answered, see that no one leads you astray. How did Abraham not get led astray? Because Yahuwah, he obeyed Yahuwah's voice, kept his commandments, his charge and his commandments. That's how nobody led him astray. No, I ain't gonna lead me astray. You're not gonna trap me like a caged bird. It's not gonna happen, because nobody gonna lead me astray. And get what it says. For many will come in my name, saying, I am Mashiach, and will lead many astray. They're gonna capture you like a caged bird. And get what it says. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Isn't that what you hear today? And guess what people try to do? Capture you like a caged bird. There are wars everywhere now. And guess what it says? You hear wars and rumors. See that you are not alarmed. For thus must take place, but the end is not yet. These disasters must take place. For nation will rise, people will rise up against people, nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. That's empire against empires. And there will be famines and pestilence and wars in various places. It was during the time of Abraham too. There were famines during that time. There were famines and pestilence and earthquakes and all during that time, during the time of Peleg. And guess what Yahuwah say? Don't let nobody lead you astray. Make sure you obey my voice, keep my commandments, my charge, and my statutes and my laws. That's all you got to do. It's not, people make it so hard. And guess what happened? And nobody will lead you astray. And guess what it says? It says, and famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. So wasn't Abraham living in the beginning of birth pains? We just read all these famines that were going on. We read about the war. They had wars with Qahalath and Abimelech. They were fighting. They had wars during that time. They had famines during that time too. Even the children of Yasharah had a war during that time, before they went into Mizraim with Yusuf. There's always been wars and rumors of wars. And guess what happens? And guess what happens during that time? And it says, and then many will fall away. Actually, go back up. Verse 9 says, then they will deliver you up in tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Right? And then it says, and then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. Why? Because when people start things start happening to people, when disasters start happening, when food rationing start going around, when people ain't got enough food, people gonna start acting crazy. People start losing their mind. For some reason, you ain't my relative no more. I'm hungry. For some reason, you ain't my relative no more. I'm gonna sell you to slavery so I can get some money, so I can get some cash flow. For you, see right now, hey, you too much to carry. I ain't gonna carry you 150 miles, 300 miles across the world because this place is destroyed. Everybody gonna betray one another. Why? Because he said, you're gonna find out who care about you and who don't. Right? And then it says, and many false Nabi'im will arise and lead many astray. That's all that's gonna happen, because everybody gonna need to get some type of money, get some type of gain, trap you like a caged bird, prophesying lies, using the words of deceit. And then guess what they're gonna use? And guess what you're gonna happen? You're gonna be trapped. You're gonna be so trapped. There's many of them that are rising today. You are locking them up, but then you have some who's still out here. Right? And it says right here, and because lawlessness will increase, because Abraham obeyed the laws. Get what it says. The love of many will grow cold. Nobody gonna care about you in a famine. Nobody gonna care about you with an earthquake. When the earthquake happens, nobody gonna care about you when people start getting killed. Nobody's gonna care about you when things start happening. You will say, don't let nobody lead you astray. Make sure you obey my voice. Keep my commandments, my charge, my laws, my statutes. That's all. And guess what happens? Everything works out for you. Man, male and female, nothing happens to you. Everything works out. Follow righteousness and Yahuwah got your back. And it says, it's going back to Bereshit Genesis chapter 12. Bereshit Genesis chapter 12. Bereshit Genesis chapter 12. Verse 11, 12 and 11. It says, when he was about to, and get what it says. It says, now there was a famine in the land of Mizraim. There was a famine in the land, so Abraham went down to Mizraim to sojourn there. It makes no sense to stay in a place where there's famine. What's the point you staying there for? That's not really a wise thing to do for your family or for your children or anything like that. And it says, so Abraham went down to Mizraim to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. It meant real severe. When he was about to enter Mizraim, he said to Sarai, his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. They will kill me, but they will leave you alive. Then Yahushua just said that. He said they're going to deliver you up, and many will betray one another, and they're going to kill each other. Then he just said that. He just said that. And guess what happens? So you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, that my life may be spared for your sake. So he was thinking about living. Because he a beautiful woman. We going in a place with a bunch of grown men, huge grown men, going to see you. And the first thing they're going to be like, we're going to kill you and take your wife, take your woman from you. That's the whole point. That's what you see today. We ain't got to that point yet, but it's getting to that point, right? And it says right here, say you, and you get what it says. When Abraham entered Mizraim, the Egyptians Mizraim saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the prince of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. They talked about it. It's like people talk online. They see a beautiful woman. Oh man, look at her, look at her. They talking about it. And get what happened? They talking about it. And they praised her for Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake, he dealt well with Abraham, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But Yahuwah afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. So you see all this happening, even though Pharaoh was ignorant of what happened. Yahuwah did not spare him. He don't care. Even if you don't know that this woman that you got is somebody else's wife, Yahuwah don't care. Even if you don't know, he's still going to plague you. He's still going to do it. But the whole point of this, there was a famine in that time. And there was a famine during the time of Yitzhak. There was going to be famines and wars and pestilence, even during the time before Yahushua comes. These are all the beginning of birth pains. Right, so this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. Devarim, chapter 28. Verse 60, Deuteronomy 28 and 58. Deuteronomy 28:58. It says, and if you are not careful to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that you may fear Yahuwah, this glorious and awesome name of Yahuwah, your Elohim. Do you think Yahuwah's name awesome? He say this glorious, awesome name. Then Yahuwah will bring on you and your offspring extraordinary afflictions and severe lasting, and sicknesses and grievous and lasting. He's going to be on what? Pestilence. What else? He said going to be wars and rumors of wars, pestilence, earthquakes, famines. He's going to bring diseases on you in diverse places. You know why there's going to be so much of this? Because of the people. Because they're not diligently and not careful to obey his commands and his laws, his statutes. So therefore, he's severely afflicting people. And guess what it says? It says, then Yahuwah will bring on you all extraordinary afflictions and severe lasting and sicknesses and grievous and lasting. And he will bring upon you all the diseases of Mizraim, of which you were afraid, and they will cling to you. Why? Because just like it clinged to Pharaoh's house after he took Abram's wife. They were committing adultery. And he didn't know. It doesn't matter. People saying, wow, all these afflictions and pestilence and disease and famines and earthquakes. and all these things in diverse places happening, just like Yahushua said. Because people are doing things outside of his commandments, laws, statutes, and judgments. That's why Yahushua said it. Man, they're going to be so bad. People are going to forsake all lawlessness is going to increase. The love for me and my words is going to wax cold. And I'm going to send all this stuff on you. But make sure nobody leads you astray, though. I'm writing these things about those who are trying to deceive you. Don't follow them. I'm trying to tell you. Verse 61. Every sickness is also, and every affliction that is not recorded in the book of this Torah, Yahuwah will bring upon you until you are destroyed. He's talking about the future. Just like we in the future now. They say back to the future. It says, whereas you were as numerous as the stars of Shamayim. Then he told Abraham that. And it says, and you shall be left few in number, because you did not obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, and Yahuwah Elohim took delight in you and doing you good and multiplying you, so that Yahuwah will take delight in bringing ruin upon you and destroying you. Stop it. People say, why he wants this? He said, I don't want. He said, you want Yahuwah to destroy you? Send a destroyer after you? Because of the spirit of deceit. What will you do when the end comes? And it says, and you shall be plucked off the land that you are entering to take possession of it. He said, I'm going to take you out of here. I'm going to get you out of the land that I gave you. I'm going to take you out of it. I'm going to make famine and pestilence and earthquakes happening where you are, where you live. I'm going to make floods come. I'm going to drown you out. Why? Because you ain't obeying my laws, statutes, and commandments. And I'm going to get you out of the land where you at, where you currently reside. And I'm going to make you move. You get what it says? And Yahuwah will scatter you among all peoples. And you be thinking like, the people around me doing it, I'm not doing it. Exactly. The people around you are doing it, so Yahuwah's like, you included. There was a great famine during the time of Abraham, and Yahuwah told Abraham, make sure you obey my voice. Even though all these people ain't doing what I say, you are, but I'm going to tell you where to go so you survive. Everybody else, I'm not going to tell them nothing. And it says right here, and Yahuwah will scatter you among all peoples. This is why, if you're saying, why he going to scatter you? From one end of the earth to the other. And there you shall serve other gods, wood and stone. Why? Because you forsook all my laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. It says, which neither your fathers have known. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob didn't do none of that. We're talking about the fathers, the head man, the sons, the Shamash, the fourth day of creation, the head people. And get what it says. And among these nations you shall find no respite, and there shall be no resting places for the sole of your foot. You ain't gonna never have it. Own nothing and you're gonna be happy. That's literally what they saying. You ain't gonna have no place to rest. You ain't gonna have no resting for you. As soon as you get there, you're gonna have to leave. But Yahuwah will give you there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and language of soul. Because you ain't like Abraham. You ain't obeying my laws, statutes, judgments, and my commandments. And you ain't obeying his voice. You can keep all of his laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments, but if you don't obey his voice, it's still not authentic. And get what it says. And get what it says. But Yahuwah will give you there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and language of soul, and your life shall hang in doubt before you, night and day. And you shall dread and have no assurance of your life. In the morning you shall say, if only it were evening. You would be hoping the day over. Man, when is this day gonna be over with? I'm tired of this. When is it gonna be over? It says, and at evening you shall say, if only it were morning. You be like, man, when is night gonna be over with? Because the dread that your heart shall feel, and the sight of your eyes shall see. And Yahuwah will bring you back to Mizraim, back in ships to Mizraim. He said they're gonna bring you back. What happened to Abraham? Yahuwah said, go into Mizraim and dwell there. He brought him into Mizraim. With all of the famine and all the things that were going on around him. He brought him into Mizraim. And guess what he did? And journey that it says ships, and journey it says a journey that I promise you shall not make again. He said, basically, I said they're not going to rule over you and lead you anymore. I promised you that they will never happen again. They will never lead you or rule over you anymore. But let's see what happened. And there you shall offer yourselves for sale to your enemies. You know, when somebody somebody buys you or purchases you, guess what happens? They rule over you. They tell you what to do. You do what they say. Has this happened? Has this happened before? Let's see. It says, has it even happened? Because people use this and they make up stories about it. But we're going to find out. It says, and you shall never make again. You shall never make again. And there you shall offer yourselves for sale to your enemies and male and female slaves. You're going to be their servants. But there will be no buyer. Nobody going to want you. I don't want you here. They're not even going to want you. You'll be like, you ain't nothing. How much money I'm going to pay for you? Man, look at you. You ain't worth nothing. You ain't worth a dime. Right? Right? This is the book of... This is the book of... This is the book of... This is the book of Joel. The book of Yahuwah, Joel chapter 1. I think Joel chapter 2. I think it is. Joel chapter 1, verse 3. It says, the word of Yahuwah, Joel chapter 1, verse 1. It says, the word of Yahuwah came to Yahuwah, the son of Pethuel. Hear this, you elders. Give ear, all the inhabitants of the land. Has such a thing ever happened in your days? Or in the days of your fathers? Tell your children of it, and let your children tell your children, and their children's children another generation. What the cutting locust left, the swarming locust has eaten. What the swarming locust left, the hopping locust has eaten. And what the hopping locust left, the destroying locust has eaten. What does that create? He said, ain't no food. It's a famine. We talked about how you were going. He said, how you rob me? In tithes and offering. He said, if you give, and it shall be given. And I'll open up the windows of Shamin and pour you out of Barak, you have room enough to receive. And I'll put the insectoids in subjection. And it says right here, awake, you drunkards, and weep. Awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and weep, and wail, and all you drinkers of wine, because of the sweet wine, for it is cut off from your mouth. For a nation has come against my land, powerful and beyond number, and teeth as are lions' teeth, and it has fangs of lions, and it has laid waste my vine, and splintered my fig tree. It has stripped off the bark and thrown it down, and their branches are made white. Lament like a virgin wearing sackcloth. He said, look right here. Wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation. But Abraham obeyed my laws, statutes, and commandments. The only reason these things didn't happen to him because he obeyed my laws, statutes, and commandments. And it says, lament like a virgin wearing sackcloth from the bridegroom of her youth, because he's dead. And it says, the grain offering and the drink offering are cut off from the house of Yahuwah. The priests mourn, the ministers of Yahuwah. The fields are destroyed. The ground mourns because of the grain is destroyed. The wine dries and the oil languishes. Be ashamed, O tillers of the soil. Wail, O vine dressers, for the wheat and the barley, because the harvest of the field is perished. The vine dries up. The fig tree languishes. Pomegranates palm, and the apple and apple, and all the trees of the field are dried up. And gladness dries up from the children of men. Why? Because of the insectoids eating everything, the nation comes in and plunders it, and there ain't no rain. And he says, why would he do that? Famines and pestilence, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and famines and pestilence in diverse places, and earthquakes. And earthquakes, right? So this is the book of Chronicles. It's the Chronicles. Book of Chronicles. Sorry. Yeah, so Book of Chronicles, chapter 12, verse 1. Book of Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, chapter 12, verse 1. Or Dabri, Hayamim, 12 and 1. 2 Chronicles 12 and 1. And when the rule of Rehoboam was established, he was strong. He abandoned the law of Yahuwah. Oh, so did he do what Abraham did? No. Abraham obeyed my laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. And what did Yahuwah say? In the book of Deuteronomy, he said, I'm going to bring you back in Mizraim again in ships. If you ain't careful to obey all these laws and these commandments that I gave you. And it says right here, and when the rule of Rehoboam was established, he was strong. He abandoned the law of Yahuwah and all Yasharah with him. In the 5th year, King Rehoboam, because they had been unfaithful to Yahuwah, let not faithfulness and love forsake you. They've been unfaithful to Yahuwah. Shishak, king of Mizraim, came up against Jerusalem. I thought he said it. You will never see this again. I promised you. I will never put you under the rule of Mizraim again. But he said, guess what he said? And Yahuwah, being that you ain't going to do it, in Deuteronomy 28, I'm going to bring you back into Mizraim again. In ships. In movable, how you say, in chariots. Because people think, oh, ships is, transportation vehicles. However I'm going to take you out of here. Carts. Ships, carts. And it says right here, came up against Jerusalem with 12,000 chariots and 60,000 horsemen. He said, Yahuwah said, I will never do that again. If you obey my laws, you careful to do them, I will never do it again. But look right here. You going into Mizraim again. And guess let's see what happened. And the people were without number who came with him from Mizraim. The Libyans, the Sukkites, the Ethiopians, and he took the fortified cities of Yehuda and came as far as Jerusalem. But that's what's going to happen. You would say, I'll never let it happen again. But being that you was unfaithful to me and you didn't care about my laws and commandments, my Torah, you didn't care about the Torah anymore, I'm going to put you back. Then Shemaiah, the Nabi, came to Rehoboam and the prince of Yehuda, who had gathered at Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said to them, because they all had a little gathering. And he said to them, thus says Yahuwah, you abandoned me. So I have abandoned you to the land of Shishak, to the hand of Shishak. I'm putting you back to Mizraim again. Just like he said in Deuteronomy chapter 28. What do you think Mashah was talking about? He was talking about this right here. This is what happened. And it says, then the princes of Yasharal and the king humbled themselves and said, Yahuwah is righteous. They realized. How you say it was enough. They humbled themselves to be humble. They afflicted themselves. And they realized, they fasted and they realized, Yahuwah is righteous. Just like Nebuchadnezzar. Yahuwah rules in the kingdom of men and he gave it to whomever he will. He gave it to the king of Mizraim. And it says, Yahuwah is righteous. And when the Yahuwah saw that they humbled themselves, the word of Yahuwah came to Shemaiah. They have humbled themselves. I will not destroy them. He said, I ain't going to do it. But I will grant them some deliverance. But I'm still sending you back to Mizraim like I told Mashah, because I ain't going to be no liar. And my wrath shall not be poured out on Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. Nevertheless, they shall be servants. They shall be servants. What? They shall be slaves to him. Just like I said in Deuteronomy chapter 28. And people take Deuteronomy 28 and they keep talking about it, but they're not even understanding why he said that. And now Mizraim rules over Yehuda and Jerusalem again. And guess what happens? And that they may know that my service and service of the kingdoms of the countries. Right? So Shishak, the king of Mizraim, came up against Jerusalem and he took away the treasuries of the house of Yahuwah and the treasuries of the king of Mizraim, and he took away everything. He did what? He took away everything. He said, Barak shall you go in, Barak shall you go out. But he said, yeah, in Deuteronomy 28, you're going to be cursed when you go in and cursed when you go out. He said, you're going to have nothing left after the siege. You're going to eat your own children. And guess what it says? And he took away the shields, the gold that Shalom had made, and the King Rehoboam made in their places shields and bronze, and committed them to the hand of the officers of the guard, who kept the door of the king's house. And as often as the king went into the house of Yahuwah, the guard came and carried them and brought them back to the guardman. And when he humbled himself, the wrath of Yahuwah turned from him, as it says, so as not to make the complete destruction. Moreover, the conditions were good in Yehuda. So King Rehoboam grew strong in Jerusalem and reigned. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem. In the city of Yahuwah, it says, the city that Yahuwah had chosen out of the tribes of Yashral to put his name there. His mother's name was Naamah. And you see all that happening. You see all that happening, right? So going to verse chapter 2 Chronicles 36 and 1. 2 Chronicles 36 and 1. 2 Chronicles 36 and 1. It says, the people of the land took Yahuaz, the son of Isaiah, and made him king in his father's place in Jerusalem. And Yahuaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. Then the king of Mizraim disposed him in Jerusalem and laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents in silver and 100 talents of gold. And the king of Mizraim made Elikam, his brother, king over Yehuda, because they ain't got no rule. They can't do what they want to do. You servants, you slaves to Mizraim again. You can't do what you want to do anymore. I tell you what to do. And guess what it says? Of silver and talents of gold. And the king of Mizraim made Elikam, his brother, king over Yehuda and Jerusalem. That's what they do today. They do that in other countries. We're not going to do this. It's okay. Therefore, we remove you from office and we put somebody else in your place. Because you ain't got no control. You a slave. You a servant to the other people. And the king of Mizraim made Elikam, his brother, king of Yehuda over Jerusalem. And he changed his name to, and he changed his what? And he changed his name to Yahuwah king. He didn't even change his name. You ain't got no power over your name. You ain't got no power over you, who was king over you, and you ain't even got the power over the name you can keep. He changed your name. He your father. Just like he changed Abraham's name. Abraham went to Abraham. Yahuwah changed his name. Guess what? You can't even change. Yahuwah ain't even changed. He said, I changed your name. I'm your God. But Necho took Yahuaz, his brother, and carried him to Mizraim. And Yahuakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, his Elohim. It still continued. But Abraham obeyed my laws, statutes, commandments, and Yahuwah said, and he obeyed my voice. And he ain't let nobody deceive him. He ain't let nobody deceive him. And guess what it says? Against him came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and bound him in chains, and to take him into Babylon. That's what's going to happen to you. You say, why? What's going to happen to you? That's what's going to happen to you. He's going to bind you in chains. Right? So this is the book of, this is Matthew. Going to Matthew. Matthew chapter 19, John chapter 19 verse 12. Yochanan chapter 19 verse 12. Yochanan chapter 19 verse 12. It says, from then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Yahudim cried out, if you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Why he say that? Because that's their God. That's the one that rule over them. Why? Because they ain't obey his law, statute, judgment, and commandments. They ain't do what they're supposed to. So therefore, they rule over them. And get what it says. Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar. You You can't do what you want to do when somebody else rule over you. He said, you opposing the king, Caesar. That's who their king is. You opposing Shishak. He the king of Mitzrayim. You opposing Nebuchadnezzar. He the king of Babylon. That's what he said. So when Pilate heard these words, he brought Yahushua out and sat down in the judgment seat at a place called Stone Pavement, and in Aramaic, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation of Pesach, and it was about the 6th hour. And he said to the Yahudim, behold your king. And they cried out, away with him, crucify him, crucify him. And they said to him, shall I crucify your king? The chief priest answered, we have no king but Caesar. We have no king but Caesar. Such delivered him over to them to be crucified. Right? So this is the book of Acts. This is the book of Acts. Chapter 1, verse 6. It says, so when they had come together, they asked him, Master, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Yasharal? Because who was the kingdom? Who was ruling over the kingdom? Caesar. Caesar was ruling over them. Why? Because they didn't obey the laws, statutes, and judgment commandments. They didn't obey it. They weren't doing it. So therefore, they weren't walking like Abraham. So how is the kingdom going to get restored back to you? How the Malkuth going to be restored back to you? Guess what he said? He said to them, it is not for you to know. No man knows they are out. Only the Father. And get what it says? Or no times or seasons that the Father has fixed by his own authority. So Yahuwah has his authority in a time where he's going to establish the Malkuth of Yasharal again. And the only way you're going to be in that Malkuth is to do what Abraham did. Abraham obeyed my laws, my statutes, my judgments, and my commandments. And he obeyed my voice. The same thing Yahushua did, Joshua, when they took the kingdom. Everybody did exactly what the voice said. And all of the commandments and the ordinances and the statutes, and they did it precisely. And by doing so, Yahuwah has given you the city. And get what it says. He said to them, it is not for you to know the times, seasons that the Father has fixed by his own authority, but you will receive power when the Kudash Ruach has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Yehuda and Samaria and to the end of the earth. Right, this is Matthew 23. Matthew 23 and 1. It says, then Yahushua said to the crowd and to his disciples, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moshe's seat, or they think they do. So do the observe. They said, so do and observe what they tell you, but do not do their works. Why? Because they say they do what's evil in the sight of Yahuwah. Because Abraham obeyed my laws, my statutes, my judgments and commandments. They were not doing it. And they obeyed his voice. What did he tell the disciples to do? Obey my voice. Keep the commandments, laws, statutes, and judgments. That's all he's telling them to do. He said, for they preach but do not practice. They say practice makes perfect. Practice makes improvement to perfection. They tie up heavy burdens hard to bear and lay them on people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to move them with their own finger. They're too lazy. And guess what happens? They do all their deeds to be seen by others. For they make their phylacteries broad and their fringes long. Well, he say their tzitzits, right? Long. They want to make people look like they're producing, right? And guess what? And they love the places of honor at the feast, and the best seats in the congregation, and greetings in the marketplaces, and being called teacher by others. They love it. And guess what happens? But you are not to be called teacher, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. All, it says, and can no man, it says, and call no man father on earth. For you have one Father, who is in Shamanim. Because, why we say that? If you do this, nobody gonna lead you astray. Because Abraham obeyed my voice. And get what it says. Neither be called instructors, for you have one instructor, which is Mashiach. The greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Right? So skipping over to verse 23. 23. It says, woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites. Why? You tithe of mint, dill, and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law. Because Abraham obeyed my laws, statutes, and commandments. And these scribes and Pharisees ain't doing what the father Abraham did. You have Abraham, my father. He said, if you were Abraham, you would love me. And get what it says. It says, woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites, for you tithe mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the Torah, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Didn't we just read it in Deuteronomy Chronicles how they weren't faithful? They were not faithful with Yahuwah. They were not walking in, they were doing evil in his sight. And guess what happens? These are you have to have done without neglecting the others. He says, you got to do all of it. It says, you blind guides. He said, you blind. Straining out the gnat and swallowing a camel, literally. And then he says, woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and the plate, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. You are the spirit of deceit. You are the caged bird catchers. You're the caged bird catchers. You're the bird catchers. You have people in caged birds. You got people locked up, and you won't let them out. You blind Pharisees, first clean the inside of the cup and the plate, that the outside may be clean. Right? He said, woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup. For all these things they do. You know why? Because they didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. They weren't doing it. So therefore, he called them blind guides, straining out the gnat. Right? So this is the book of Matthew 5, 10, 15 and 10. Matthew 15 and 10. It says, and he called to the people to him, Matthew 15 and 10. And he called the people to him and said to them, hear and understand. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth that defiles a person. Then the disciples came and said to him, do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? Do you know all those people all over the world were offended when you said that? Do you know they were offended? And what did Yahuwah say? And he says, he answered, every plant that my Shamayim father has not planted will be rooted up. He's like, the only reason they offended, because they getting ready to be rooted up. The only reason they offended, the only reason they upset is because they getting ready to be rooted up. That's the only reason they mad, upset at me. They just signifying that they tree getting ready to be cut down. Like Nebuchadnezzar. He says, but I don't know if a stump gonna be left. Verse 14 says, let them alone. Why? They are blind guides. They don't do the law, statutes, judgments, and commandments. They don't obey my voice. Therefore, they will lead you astray. But Abraham obeyed my laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. You see this famine right here, Abraham? Go into Mizraim and sojourn there. What's in Mizraim? I'll tell you when I get there. When you get there. It says, let them alone. They are blind guides. And if the blind lead the blind, they both will fall into the pit. They're going to go in the lake of fire. They're going to go through the furnace of affliction. Why do you think every time they were blind guys and they were unfaithful to Yahuwah, they always had to go through the furnace of affliction. They always had to go to Babylon. They had to get beat down. Always things happen. They lose everything they had. All these are furnace of affliction because he said you weren't faithful to me. It's just like a woman not faithful to a husband or a husband not faithful to his family. It's the same thing. He said you're going to go through the furnace of affliction. He said they had committed adultery. He said you will not go unpunished. And then people say, I ain't going to be punished. He said, yeah, you're going to get punished. Go look at the track record of Mizraim, of Yasharal, Yehuda, and all the other people who did it. He says, both will fall into the pit. But Koph said to him, explain to us the parable. He still ain't understand what he said. He's like, hold up, what you talking about? And he said, are you still without understanding? He said, what's wrong with you? You can't pick this up. And people say, what type of teacher was Yahusha? What type of understanding? Yahusha like, what's wrong with you? You ain't learned nothing yet. He said, Yahusha is literally insulting his intelligence. Like, what is wrong with you? And then he says, do you not see that whatsoever goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is expelled? You see that naturally, don't you? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander. These are all the laws, lessons, judgments, and commandments that nobody did. And guess what happens? He said, this is what defiles, this is what I'm talking about. These are what defiles a person. But to eat with unwashed hands does not foul anyone. None of that stuff defiles any person. All the stuff that Yahuwah told Abraham to do and obey his voice, he did. Right, so this is the book, this is Yuchanan chapter 8. John chapter 8, verse 1. John chapter 8, verse 1. It says, they went each to his own house, but Yahusha went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, because you know the dawn, because he's like a bridegroom leaving his chamber. Because nobody can hide from the heat. That's what the sun is. And it says right here, early in the morning, he came again to the temple, and all the people came to him. And he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who was caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, and they said to him, Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in the Torah, Moshe commanded us to stone such a woman. So, what do you say? This they said to test him. Why? They want to see your knowledge of the Torah. What do you know about the Torah? The laws. You know the law book? Just like a police officer has a law book and they recite the laws. You can't pull me over for this. This is actually the law that violates section 4568452. He said, what do you know about the laws? You're supposed to be a real officer. You're supposed to know all this stuff. You're supposed to be a real teacher. Let's see what you know. And it says, now in the law, Moshe commanded us to stone such a woman. So what do you say? This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Why? Because he ain't say what the laws say. Because the man has to catch her both in the bed. They even say that she committed adultery. Or he say catch them in the very act. But when David committed adultery with Bathsheba, nobody called him. Everybody knew. Some people knew though. He said that's the wife of such and such, and some didn't. But he said that's the wife of such and such. But they didn't even say nothing. Because you know why they don't say nothing? Because they themselves do the very same thing. And it says right here, this they did to test him, that they might have some charge against him. And Yahusha bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. And as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, let him who without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. He said, who got sin? Who got no sin among you? Because if you stole a thought, you gotta understand, why am I here if you all got no sin? And this is what he said. And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. And he did it twice, because that 2 or 3 witnesses, every word be established. And get what he said. But when they heard it, they went away one by one. He left. We heard the Turah sound. He without sin cast the first stone. And get what it says. Beginning with the older ones, from the ancient ones, because aged men ain't always wise. And then he said, and Yahusha was left alone with the woman, standing before him. And Yahusha stood up and said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, No, my master. And Yahusha said, Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more. Did he just say that she didn't commit adultery? Did he just say she innocent? No. She was guilty. But he knew, hey, we can't put you to death. Because if we put you to death, we got to kill the man too. And he ain't here. So therefore, go free. All right, so this is the book of Timothy. This is the book of 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 21. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 21. In the presence of Yahuwah, in the presence of Elohim and of Mashiach Yahusha and of the elect Malakim, what do you mean? Because we're surrounded so great a cloud of witnesses. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily clings to us. I charge you to keep these rules without prejudging, doing nothing from partiality. Do not be hasty in laying on of hands, nor take part in other sins of others. Keep yourself pure. Why? He said, don't you be so quick to pick up a stone and kill somebody. Don't be so quick to start trying to kill people for things they do. Don't be so quick, because you know what comes out of the heart. That defiles a person. Don't be so quick. Why? Verse 23. No longer drink only water, but use a little wine for the sake of the stomach and frequent ailments. The sins of some people are conspicuous. Go on before them in judgment, because you might want to slow down a little quicker before you start trying to condemn and throw some stones at somebody and put somebody and destroy somebody. Going before them in judgment, but the sins of others appear later. He said, don't be so fast now, because everybody got to go to judgment. So also, good works are conspicuous, because you really don't know. And even those that are not cannot remain hidden. We don't know. Going back to verse 20 of that same book. As for those who persist in sin, rebuke them in the presence of all, so that the rest may stand in fear, in the presence of Yahuwah and Mashiach Yahusha. Why? Because people you don't know. Because a lot of people be doing things you don't even know. Just like the people that know that this woman committed adultery, she was caught in the very act. We don't know. I can't lay hands on you. We don't know the specific details. We don't really actually know. So therefore, I can't do anything to you. I can't do nothing to you. Right? Right, so this is going back to Jeremiah chapter 30, Jeremiah chapter 30, 33, and verse 1. Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 1. 33 and 1. Actually, 33:14. And it says, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah Elohim, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Yasharal. Fulfill the promise I made to who? For the promises unto you and to your children that are far off. What's the promise? That I'm gonna restore the kingdom back to Yasharal, the Malkuth, the king. He said, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when I will fulfill the promise that I made to the house of Yasharal in Yehuda. Think not I've come to destroy the Torah or the laws. I've not come to destroy them, but to fulfill them. He's going to fulfill the promise I made to the house of Yasharal and Yehuda, not to some missionaries that came over here 1,000 years ago or came across the world. He didn't come to fulfill that to you. He didn't do that. I didn't come there to put you in sex and all these different things that y'all see today. He said, I didn't come to fulfill that. That's not the promise I made. I made it to Yasharal and Yehuda, in the house of Yehuda. It says, in those days, and at that time, I will cause the righteous branch, the righteous branch to spring up for David, Dawid, his house, and he shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. And it says, in those days, Yehuda will be saved. In those days, who? In those days, Yehuda will be saved. From who? From the people he put them in. Remember, he put them in Mizraim again. It were other people over them. We have no king but Caesar. We have no king but Mizraim, Shishak. We have no king but Nebuchadnezzar. I come to deliver you from your enemies. They came there with chariots and horsemen, many without number, and they took the city. He said, you know what? I'm coming to free Yehuda and Jerusalem. It says, in those days, Yehuda will be saved. Yehuda. And Jerusalem will dwell securely. It will be at peace. It will be the teachings of peace again. And this is the name by which he will be called. Yahuwah is our righteousness. Yahuwah, righteousness. Malak Sadiq. Yahuwah is righteous. For thus says Yahuwah, David, Daud shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Yasharal. And the Louis, the priest, shall never lack a man in my presence to offer burnt offerings, to burn grain offerings, and to make sacrifice forever. And said, and the word of Yahuwah came to Yirmiyahu. Thus says Yahuwah, if you can't break my covenant with the day and my covenant with night, why do you think y'all was trying to take out the fourth day of creation? Because they got to take out creation itself. Day and night, evening and morning, evening and morning, evening and morning. They got to take that out. That's the only way they're going to take you out. Sorry. And it says, they can't break my covenant with day and night. He said, break my covenant with day and my covenant with night, so that day and night will not come at their appointed time. They got to stop the sun. They got to stop the shamash. They got to stop the fathers. The fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they want to stop them. Why? It says, so that day and night will not come at their appointed time, because they need to rise and sunset. We got morning sacrifice and evening sacrifice, and noon prayers. They know we move according to the cosmos, according to the fourth day of creation. They know we move according to the Shemesh people in the ark. Why do you think they're trying to create artificial moons now? And artificial suns. They try to hit. There are 3 suns in the sky. Why do you think why you putting these holograms in the sky for? You think they're doing that for nothing? They're trying to throw you off. Why do you think they got about 85 different calendars in the world? 100 different times, different time zones and sequences. One people go from 13th month, 5 days. Another person got 6 months. Another person got 2 days at transit time. Another person do it at equinox, equilux. One person count the moon. Why do you think they got all this confusion? Because they know. My teaching, my thing, I got this, I got that. Because they know you. They got to keep you so confused to where you don't even know what to do. And get what happened? So that the day and night will not come at their appointed time. Then also my covenant with Daud, my servant, may be broken. That's the only reason they do it. Because they know if I keep you on this time, if I keep you on this time, if I keep you on this time, guess what happened? Then you'll never get it right. And you'll always be broken. And it'll never happen. You'll never have a man sitting on the throne you'll never get your kingdom back either. It'll never happen. And guess what happens? And my covenant with the Louis, the priest, my ministers. Why? Because they ain't gonna be able to, you're not going to be able to do sacrifices. It doesn't offer up the sacrifice of praise to Yahuwah continually. How are you going to do that if you don't know what time it is? How are you going to do that? Because he said, what do you mean? Because he made us Malak, kings and priests. How are you going to do that? How are you going to offer up praise and sacrifice? How are you going to do that continually? Which is the fruit of your lips. The fruit of your lips. Kindness of heart, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, and moon, and self-control. All the fruits that you have. How are you going to do that? I don't know when the feast are, the mu'ahs. I don't know when the time sequence happens. How are you going to do it? And guess what it says? Verse 21 said, 22, as the host of Shamim cannot be numbered, and the sands of the sea cannot be measured, so I will multiply the offspring of Dawood, David, my servant, and Louis, priest, shall minister to me. The word, when you minister, it means feed me. Because you're supposed to offer a food offering. And get what it says. And the word of Yahuwah came to Yirmiyahu. Have you not observed that these people are saying Yahuwah has rejected the two clans that he chose? Huh? The two clans that he chose? What do you mean? Oh, you mean the tribe? Because you know we tribal. We're tribal people. The two clans that he chose. Many are called, a few are chosen. Who? The many clans, the two he chose. Who? Yasharal and Yehuda. It's always been to them. Thus, they have despised my people so that they are no longer a nation in their sight. They don't even acknowledge you. Yasharal and Yehuda, who are you? You ain't no nation. How much money you got? What's your GDP? What land you got? What's your gross national product? What are you producing? You have nothing. They don't even acknowledge you. Your women are ugly now. You're not even as beautiful as women were before. We'll have no reason to admire you like before. Look at you. They don't even acknowledge you. Look at your fathers. Oh, your fathers are. You don't even have no sons. You don't even know who your sons are. You take a paternity test. You're raising other people's children. And get what he says. If I have established, get what he says. They don't even acknowledge you. It says, my servant will not choose one of the offspring. There we go. Sorry. Verse 25. Thus says Yahuwah, if I had not established my covenant with day and night and fixed this other fixed order of Shamayim in earth, then I will reject the offspring of Yaakov. They don't even acknowledge you as a nation. But he got his fixed order of the fourth day of creation is still here. His constellation and his shamash, his Gadol Ma'or is still here. His cogs, muads, days, times, and years, and his shifting of the seasons and moving the constellations in Mazzaroth and Arcturus and Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, the Bear constellation, and the Kima that he holds in his right hand, that he moves, that he breaks the bands of Orion, is still here. And the movement pattern of the cosmos is still here. He said, you're going to have to break that. Then I will reject the offspring of Yaakov, the 12 tribes, the 12 patriarchs, the offspring of Yaakov and David, Dawood, my servant. Or you mean the house of Yehuda? Because Yehuda, why he say Yaakov and David? And then it says, Dawood, and I will not choose one of his, it says, and I will not choose one of his offspring to rule over the offspring of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Over the offspring of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Oh, over these other things that people say, these other missionary teachings and other missionary things that they commanded. He ain't talking about you. It's just like any other thing. People take one book and they make other books to make money off of it. We created this translation, and this is what it says, and this is who it's talking about. So I will restore their fortunes and will have mercy on them. He said, I'm going to do that. But he say, why would he say Jacob and David, right? This is Bereshit, Genesis chapter 49. He said Yehuda. He said Bereshit, Genesis chapter 49, verse 8. It says, Yehuda, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Oh, you mean, he said your hand gonna be right on the neck of your enemies, right? We're talking about pressure. Why? Because they're putting the pressure on the enemies. Why? Because all of the kings and rulers who rule over you, you're now putting the pressure back on these missionaries and everything that they've done and all the things that they've coerced the world to think. And now, to make you seem like you're a nation, and now you're putting pressure on them to have to reveal the lie. And guess what it says? Yehuda, your brother shall praise. Why? Because you're going to get the, you know why they're going to pray? You know why they're going to do that? Because you're putting the pressure on everybody. And you're going to cause them to do it. And get what it says? The father's son shall bow down before you. Why are he going to bow down before you? Yehuda is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stoops down, he crouches like as a lion, as a lioness. Who dare rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him. And to him shall be the obedience of the peoples, the obedience of the other tribes, the obedience of the other tribes, right? So this is the Aramaic Targums. This is the Aramaic Targums, that same chapter, 49. This is Aramaic Targums. It's the Aramaic Targums, chapter 49, verse. Chapter 49, verse, it's the Aramaic Targums, Jonathan, chapter 49, verse 8. It says, Yehuda, you confess, actually going to verse 16. Actually, 49 and 20. It says, your hands will avenge you of your enemies by throwing arrows at them. When they turn their back before you, and your father's sons will come forward and salute you. I compare you, Yehuda, my son, to a whelp. The young lions, because of your soul, remained aloof from the murder of my son Yusuf, and from the judgment of Tamar, and you shall be delivered. It says, you rest, and you are at ease in strength, like a lion and like a lioness. He says both male and female. It says, and when he rests, who will rouse him? Kings and rulers shall not cease from those of the house of Yehuda, nor scribes teaching the law. For, it says, from his descendants, until the time of the king Mashiach comes, the youngest of his sons, because whom the people will pine away. How beautiful is the king Mashiach who is to arise among those of the house of Yehuda. He girds his loins and comes down, arranging battle lines against his enemies and slaying kings together with their rulers. And there is no king or ruler who can withstand him. He makes the mountains red with the blood of the slain. His garments are rolled in blood. He is like a pressure of wine grapes. How beautiful are the eyes of the king Mashiach. Like pure wine, for they have not seen the uncovering of the nakedness of the shedding of the innocent blood. His teeth are whiter than milk, because he has not eaten what has been robbed or taken by force. His mountains and his press will be red from wine, and his hills white from the harvest from the flocks. Verse 8. Right, this is the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah. Yeshayahu chapter 63, Isaiah 63 and 1. Isaiah 63 and 1. It says, who is he who comes from Edom in crimson garments of Basra? He who is splendid in apparel, marching in his greatness and his strength. It is I speaking in righteousness. He what? He's speaking in righteousness. To who? To his chosen. To the two clans he chose. Mighty to save. Who is your apparel? Why is your apparel red? Huh? Why is your apparel red and your garments like his who treads the winepress? I have trodden the winepress alone, and from the peoples no one was with me. I trod them in my anger and trampled them down in my wrath. Their lifeblood spattered on my garments and stained my apparel. For the day of vengeance was in my heart, and my year of redemption had come. And I looked, but there was no one to help. Who do you think he's talking about? He said, I looked and there was nobody to help me. I was looking for my Azar, my bride, my bride, my Azar, the 12 tribes. And there was nobody to help me. I was appalled, but there was no one to uphold me. Nobody cared. Why do you think they said? You be the king of Yehuda, come down. That's one clan. You be the king of Yasharal, come down. That's the second clan. I would not fail a man to sit on the throne of the house of Yehuda in Yasharal, and he did sit on the throne. Because he said the son of Adam be lifted up. I'm going to draw people to myself. Why do you think they were looking at him and calling him what he was? But they were mocking him. And he was looking for somebody to show some type of, and give me some help. But there was nobody to help him. Because you know why? Because the love of many has waxed cold. Because they weren't obeying the laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. And guess what? I was appalled, and there was no one to help me. So my own arm brought me salvation. He said, you see that? He said, my own arm brought me salvation. And my wrath upheld me. He said, my wrath upheld me, kept me up there. And guess what? And I trampled down the peoples in my anger. Why do you think they were at his feet when they were talking to him on the cross? And guess what happened on totality? And I made them drunk in my wrath. And I poured out their lifeblood on the earth. Why do you think when they pierced him in his side, out came blood and water? They poured out his lifeblood on the earth. He said, I did all that in your face. Verse 7 says, I recount the steadfast love of Yahuwah. He recounted in his mind the praises of Yahuwah, according to all that Yahuwah has granted us, and the great goodness to the house of Yasharal. To who? Because he came to give salvation to his two clans, whom he chose. Because he ain't never dealt so with any other people. He never dealt. I showed my statutes and rules to Yasharal, my rules, my Torah to Yaakov, and my rules to Yasharal. I ain't never did that to nobody. So if you say something different, he said, you're not with me. So other people, how you get it? How these other people get it? You know how they got it? They got it through a false Mashiach. Anti-Mashiach. That's how they got it. And it says right here, it says, according to all that Yahuwah has granted us, and the great goodness to the house of Yasharal, that he has granted them according to his compassion, according to the abundance of his steadfast love. For he said, surely they are my people, children who will not deal falsely. And he became their savior. In all their affliction, he was afflicted. He said, when you were afflicted, I was afflicted. When you were hurt, when you were fasting, I was fasting. The Malkuth Yahuwah of his presence saved them. And in his love and in his pity, he redeemed them. He lifted them up and carried them all the days of old. But guess what happened? But they rebelled and grieved the Kudash Ruach. Therefore he turned to be their enemy and himself fought against them. They did what? He became their enemy. Right? So this is the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 25. He said, surely they deal truly. They don't deal falsely. Yeah, they my people, and I saved them. They don't deal falsely. That's what he said. This is Ephesians 5:25. Therefore, having put away falsehood, my people don't deal falsely, and I redeemed them. Let each one speak truth with his neighbor, for we are the members of one another. Be angry, but do not sin. What did Yahushua say? He said, my wrath held me up. And guess what he didn't do? He didn't sin. He stayed up there still. He said, my wrath held me up on the totality with them nails in my hand. Because I could have easily came down. And he didn't sin. And guess what happened? Be angry and sin not. Do not let the sun go down in your anger. Why do you think he didn't let the sun go down in his anger? What did he say on the totality? He said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. He didn't let the anger. He had wrath up there, but he said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do before the sun went down. He didn't let the sun go down in his wrath. He says, and give no opportunity for Satan. That's the only reason he did it. Because Satan always looking for opportunity. And get what happens? Let the thief no longer steal. Thou shalt not steal. But rather let him labor and doing honest work with his own hand. Why? No unjust gain. No kamas. No greed. So that he may have something to share with the others in need. Honest gain to share with other people in need. So I can have honest gain to give to other people. Let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, but only such as good to the building up, that fits the occasion, that it may give con to those who hear. And do not grieve the Kudash Ruach of Elohim. Why? Because Yahuwah going to turn and be your enemy. He's going to turn and he's going to fight with you, and he's going to turn and be your enemy. And guess what happened? By whom you are sealed to the day of redemption. To the day of redemption. Because he gonna redeem those who don't deal falsely. So if you deal, I'm saved right now. No, you gotta not deal falsely for the rest of your life. And you can't greed the Ruach HaKodesh for the rest of your life, or Yahuwah gonna turn to be your enemy on the day of judgment. Because Abraham obeyed my law, statutes, judgments, and commandments. That's the only reason I'm even giving you this promise. But for some reason, everybody says it's other people. We are sure though. But it says right here, let all bitterness, and wrath, and anger, and clamor, and slander be put away from you, with all malice, along with all malice. This is all the stuff the scribes and the Pharisees were doing. Because they weren't obeying the law, statutes, judgments, and commandments. They weren't obeying his voice. Be kind one to another, because he gonna beautify the kind ones with salvation. Kasid. And guess what it says? Tender-hearted. That means heart of flesh. Very sensitive. Forgiving one another. That's what Yahushua did on the totality. As Elohim in Mashiach forgave you, because Yahuwah was inside of Yahushua Mashiach forgiving us. He was inside Yahushua Mashiach forgiving us for the sins that we committed against him. Right, so this is the book of this is the book of Yochanan. Yochanan chapter 5, verse 14. John chapter 5, verse 14. It says that afterwards, Yahushua found him in the temple and said to him, see, you are well, sin no more. Why do Yahushua keep saying that? Kata no more. That nothing worse happened to you, because you're going to grieve the Ruach Kadash, and you're going to turn to be your enemy. Just like he did Yasharal when they forsook him in Deuteronomy 28. He said, I'm going to bring you to Mizraim again in ships. Matter of fact, Yahuwah even lightened the load on him after he did it the second time. And get what it says. The man went away and told the Yahudim that it was Yahushua who had healed him. It was Yahushua who taught him that. That's literally what he's saying, because he healed him. He was healing to his shore. Because he gave him what? He didn't lean to his own understanding. In all his ways, he acknowledged Yahushua Mashiach. And guess what happened? He was healed. And he made straight his paths, and he was healing to his flesh. He believed the words he said. And he was healed. And this was why the Yahudim were persecuting Yahushua. Why? Because he was healing people by his words. They believed. They didn't lean to their own understanding. They weren't leaning to the understanding of the scribes and the Pharisees and all the people around that were teaching. They were leaning to his teaching. And guess what happened? They were persecuting him because they were saying all type of stuff about him. Why? What you doing that for? That's a bunch of BS. Exactly. They said this is the reason they were persecuting Yahushua, because he was doing these things on the Shabbat. He's like, what you doing that for? But Yahushua answered them, my Father is working until now, and I am working. He said Yahuwah ceased from all his labors. He did. He said, but my Father is working, I'm working too. He said, I'm working too. I'm doing the same thing he's doing. This is why the Yahudim were seeking all about to kill him. Why are they trying to kill him? Why are they trying to kill a man who doing this? Because they not obeying his laws, his statutes, his judgment commandments, and they not obeying his voice. They hate his voice. They hate what he's saying, and they hate what he tell them to do. That's why he said, Abraham loved me. Abraham obeyed my voice. Because the Father, Yahuwah, was in the Son, reconciling the world to himself. He said, Abraham loved my voice, though, for some reason. He loved me. Y'all don't love my voice, do you? You don't like when I tell you what something. So therefore, you're going to kill me, don't you? And he says, because not only was he breaking the Shabbat, because they thought, you breaking the Shabbat, you going to work. You healing folk. You healing people. But he was even calling Elohim his own father. Yahuwah his father. What's wrong with that? Do you believe that Yahuwah is your father? What's wrong with that? Yahuwah said, if you don't humble yourself like a child, he said you will never enter the Malkuth. Why would you go into the kingdom of your father and you don't want to be a child? You ain't humble yourself like a child. You don't believe Yahuwah is your father? Making himself equal with Elohim. You making yourself a God. So you literally saying that Yahuwah is my father. So you literally saying you a God? Yeah, I'm saying I'm a God. So you saying you're a goddess of the one in the highest Shaman. You're ascended. You're literally an extension of him on earth. The one who made everything. The one who made everything we see. He's like, yeah. Man, you arrogant. You think you somebody. He said, Yahushua said, if you don't confess me, he said, I ain't going to confess you before my Father in Shamayim. Why should I confess you? Verse 19 says, so Yahushua said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For the Father, whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. I'm do the same thing. And get what he said. It says, for the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing. And greater works than these will he show him, so that you may marvel. We show him. It's like he showed Hanuk all of the movement patterns of the cosmos, and the Shamash, and the Malakim, and all the moving patterns of the sun, and the celestial circles, and the portals. And guess what people doing today? They like, what in the world is that? He said, I'm going to make you marvel even more. I'm going to show you some more stuff too. That you are going to be like, where is this stuff coming from? You be like, how you getting this stuff? It's not even in the books. He's like, yeah, exactly. He said that you may marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, so also the Son gives life to whom he will. Arise, shine, for the light has shined upon you. And guess what he says? For the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. He said, the Father sent me. He said, you don't honor the Son, you don't honor the Father who sent him. And people like, this wife, she dishonored my father. She ain't dishonored you, she dishonored the Son. This woman just dishonored the Son. No, she didn't dishonor you, she dishonored the Father. Because you dishonor the Son, you dishonor the Father. You dishonor the Father, you dishonor the Son. So you can hate two people at one time. He said you commit double sin, add sin upon sin. And people say, what? He said, truly, truly, I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. Truly I say to you, an hour is coming, and it now is, and now here, when the dead will hear the voice of the hear the voice. Abraham obeyed my voice. So Abraham loved my voice. He loved me. How come you don't understand what I'm saying? He said, the voice of the Son of Elohim, and they will hear, they who hear will live. They who hear will live. The dead and Mashiach are going to rise first when he give out a voice of command. They're going to hear it. And they're going to love the voice too. But I ain't getting up. Everybody wake up. I ain't getting up. Forget you. Okay, stay down there. And guess what it says? And he says, have eternal life. And he does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. Truly I say to you, an hour is coming, and now here, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and those who hear will live. For as the Father has life in himself, so he has granted the Son also to have life in himself. And he has given him authority to execute judgment, because he's the Son of Yahuwah. Do not marvel at this, for an hour is coming, all who are in the tombs will hear his voice and come out. He said, I don't like his voice. I don't like his thunderbolt. I want to hear it from somebody else. I don't like his voice, his commands. Those who have done good to resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of judgment. So if you've done good and your works follow you, you're going right to life. If you've done evil, you're going to judgment. But there's a point in the man who wants to die, then judgment. Why? Because you've done evil in your life. But if you went from death to life, and you do good the rest of your life, he said you're going to wake up and go to life. You already know. You do evil, you go into judgment. Nobody goes to court if you ain't do nothing wrong. Yahuwah ain't bringing up no false witnesses. I got a charge and I'm going to court. It's because you did something wrong. Or somebody said something false witnesses. In Yahuwah's court ain't no false witnesses. Satan gonna be telling the truth. Man, that person did this on that day. That person did this on that day. That person did this on that day. Satan ain't gonna be no liar. He gonna be like, that person did this on that day. He gonna have all the records. He gonna have everything you done. He's mine. She's mine. All of it. Right, so this is the book of, last couple of things, this is the book of Pseudepigrapha. This is Pseudepigrapha. Dabarim, Pseudepigrapha, I'm sorry. Pseudepigrapha. Second Baruch. Pseudepigrapha. Second Baruch. Pseudepigrapha. 56, chapter 56, Pseudepigrapha, volume 1, chapter 56. Chapter 56, verse 5. It says, "And you first saw the black waters on the top of the cloud, which first came down upon the earth. This is the transgression which Adam, the first man, committed. For when he transgressed, untimely death came into being, mourning was mentioned, affliction was prepared, illness was created, labor accomplished, pride began to come into existence. The realm of death began to ask to be renewed with blood. The conception of children came about. The passions of parents was produced. The loftiness of men was humiliated, and the goodness vanished. All because of all one person." And then it says, "What could therefore have been blacker and darker than these?" He said, what blacker than that? He said, what blacker and darker than this? He said, what's blacker and darker than these? Than all that? And he said, this is the beginning of the black waters which you have seen. He said, it's the black waters. And from these black waters again, he said, and from these black waters again, black were born. And very darkness originated. For he who was a danger to himself was also a danger to the Malkuth. For they possessed freedom in that time in which they were created. And some of them came down and mingled themselves with women. And at that time, they who acted like this were tormented in chains. He said, here we go, getting chained down again. What do you mean? Because the spirit of deceit. Because all those things that we read in Dead Sea Scroll, they chain your feet. But when this thing with corruption, hatred, and ignorance, it chain your feet. It changed your feet. It says, but the rest of the multitude of the Malkuth who have no number restrained themselves, and those living on earth perished together through the waters of the flood. Those are the first black waters. So you look at all the things that happen, and all the blackness, the murky. He says, what does it say in the book of Yeshayahu 57? He says they keep up dirt and meal in their waters. It's dirt, it's black. And guess what happens? They can't be quiet. They can't be quiet. And get what it says. And after these you saw the bright waters, that it is the foundation of Abraham. Because Abraham obeyed my laws, kept my commandments, my statutes. And get what it says. And his generation, and the coming of his son, and the son of his son, and of those who walk like them. Who what? For those who walk like them. For who? For those who walk like them. I mean, walk. They obey his law, statutes, judgments, and commandments. He has not dealt so with any other people. He sold it to Yasharal and Yehuda. The two clans, Yasharal and Yehuda, he came to give salvation to. And those who walk like them. So all those who walk like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the 12 tribes, the Yasharal, and all those who will join themselves to the 12 tribes, he said, you'll be just like them. And guess what happens? For at that time, the unwritten Torah was enforced among them. It was what? For at that time, the unwritten Torah law was enforced among them. And then what it say? And the works of the commandments were accomplished at that time. And the beliefs in the coming judgments were brought about. And the hope of the world which will be renewed was built at that time. I saw New Shamayim and New Earth. And the promise of life that will come later was planted. He said it was planted. And it says, these are the bright waters which you have seen. So he said, the bright waters. So these are the bright waters. Right, so this is the book of... Right, so this is the book of... This book of Luke 11, Luke Oriyah 11 and 33. Luke 11, 33. It says, no one, after lighting a lamp, puts it in a cellar or under a basket, but on a stand, a menorah, so that those who enter may see the light. He said, your eye is the lamp of your body. Your 7 eyes is the lamp of your body. Your eye, that's a near. When your eyes is healthy, your whole body is full of light. When your whole body is healthy, Abraham kept all the 7 times. Your 7 nears, your 7 lamps, your 7 muads, your 7 feasts, your 7 celestial circles. He said, when they are lit, he said, your whole body full of light. But when it is evil, your body is full of darkness. When you don't do it, he said, you're going to be like Nebuchadnezzar. I'm going to repeat the whole thing again. Yeah, until you say, Yahuwah rules in the Malkuth of Shamayim, and he gives it to whomever he will. He said, your whole body full of darkness. You be the dark waters. Out of your belly shall flow rivers of dark water, murky, mere, and dirt water. If you're full of darkness. And it says, therefore be careful. Didn't we hear that before? In Deuteronomy chapter 28, it said, be careful to observe all what I tell you. Therefore be careful, lest the light in you be darkness. He be pouring out murky and dirt and dark water. Out of his belly shall flow rivers and living dark water, telling you not to keep the commandments, telling you not to obey his laws, statutes, and judgments, telling you not to believe in Yahushua Mashiach. Believe in this Mashiach, this one that came over here, and make sure you put this tree in your house, and make sure you eat this thing to this other guy, and make sure you do that too. Obey that one. Yeah, obey that voice. Yeah, make sure you do this right here, and have this day that you do this, and make sure you put an egg with a rabbit, right? And do that. And make sure you put this over here too. Matter of fact, make sure you put this person in a pulpit of wood. And make sure you give them all your money. And make sure you do it with joy and gladness. Give me all the praise. And kiss my ring. And he says, lest the light in you be darkness. Because you know what the light, we know what the bright waters are. Let's see what the bright waters are. If your whole body is full of light, if your whole body is the bright waters, having no part dark, it is wholly bright. It is bright waters. As when a lamp with its rays gives you light. As a lamp with its rays give you light. How you gonna give you light? So they're going back to 2nd Baruch 57, 2nd Baruch chapter 57 and 1. And after these you saw the bright waters. That is the fountain of Abraham and his generation. That is the fountain of Abraham and his generation. All right, so this is the book of this is the book of Yuchanan. This is the book of John. Yuchanan 8 and 34. Yahusha answered them, truly, truly, Yuchanan 8:34. Yahusha answered them, truly, truly, or true, truth, I say to you. That's what he's saying. Truth, I say to you. Everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. He said you could be a slave to all those things that caused Adam to sin. He said you could be a slave to it. What do you mean? Yeah, you become a slave to that. That's why he said children be your oppressors. He said you become a slave to it. You become a slave to women ruling over you. You become a slave to that. You become a slave and be a caged bird with a spirit of deceit, with people agreed. All that came into being after Adam. And get what he said? He said, if you abide in my word, he said, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. They'll cast your behind out if you don't do what the slave master say. The son remains in it forever. So if the son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I know you are the offspring of Abraham. Oh, you mean you're the offspring of the bright waters? Yet you seek to kill me. I thought you were offspring of the bright waters. Because my word finds no place in you. That's why you want to kill me. Because you full. Because you full already. You fat. You already fat. They already fattened you up like Hansel and Gretel. They filled your mouth in. Right? He said, you fat. Yeah, you seek to kill me because my word find no place in you. I speak of what I've seen of my father, and you do what you've seen and heard of your father. They answered, Abraham is our father. So you the bright waters. You the people, the Torah was in place during that time. Yahushua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works Abraham did. You would be keeping the commandments, laws, statutes, and judgments. You would obey my voice. But now you seek to kill me, a man who had told you the truth. I heard from Elohim. This is not what Abraham did. Abraham say, that's the truth. Abraham didn't do that. Abraham was the bright waters. They said to him, we are not born of sexual morality. We have one father, even Elohim. Yahushua said to them, if Elohim were your father, you would love me. For I come from Elohim, and I am here. I came out not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father Satan all, and your will is to do your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the Amath, because there is no Amath in him. Because he full. I'm so full. You know how people say, I'm so full. I'm full of the Ruach Kodesh. I'm full of the Spirit. Right? That's what they believe here. He's like, man, you ain't got it. Can you imagine? Yahushua kind of said, man, you don't know what you're talking about. And he says, because there is no truth in him. Because it says that the commandments are lamp and the Torah is a light. The correction and reproof is the way of life. That righteousness, the everlasting right, and that Torah is the truth. Because there ain't no righteousness in you. And guess what he says? When he lies, he speaks of his own character. For he's a liar and the father of lies. Why? Because he tell you that Yasharal and Yehuda and the two clans of Yasharal ain't the people Yahushua came for. And those who join to them will what? Get eternal life. They tell you you can't get eternal life if you join the 12 tribes of Yasharal. Only those type of people can get it. He said these people follow lies. They've been liars. And he says, but because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. I ain't believing that. I don't believe that stuff. Let me break it down to its smallest common denominator. He says, what? Which one of you convicts me of sin? You know why? He said, make sure you lay hands on no man. Make sure you be real careful. Because some men, you don't really know. He's like, you could be killing somebody, you got a whole bunch of sin in you. He said, which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell you the truth, why do you not believe me? Whosoever is of Elohim hear Yahuwah's word, he hears his voice. The reason why you do not hear them is because you are not of Elohim. You are not a God that descended out from you. You are not a God that descended out from Yahuwah. Going back to chapter 57, we almost finished. It says, and after these you saw the bright waters. You saw the bright waters. That is the fountain of Abraham and his generation, and the coming of his son. The coming of his son. And the son of his son. And of those who are like them. For as it is written, for at that time the unwritten law was enforced among them. Going to chapter 58. Actually, keep going. And it says, and the works of the commandments were accomplished at that time, and the belief of the coming judgment was brought about, and the hope of the world which will be renewed was built at that time, and the promise of life that will come later was planted. Those are the bright waters, that which you have seen. Verse 58 says, and the third black waters that you have seen, that is the mingling of all sins with the nations committed afterward. He mingling in with the nations, and he's saying committing sin. And guess what it says? It says, and after the death of those righteous men,
in the wickedness of the land of Mizraim, in which they have acted wickedly in the oppression, which they oppressed their sons, but also they perished at the end. Verse 59, chapter 59, in the fourth bright waters, which you have seen, that is the coming of Mashah, and Aaron, and Miriam, and Yahusha, and the son of Nun, and of Caleb, and all those who are like these. For at that time the lamp of the eternal Torah, which exists forever and ever, illuminated all those who sat in darkness. Just like the menorah is lit on the candle. Everybody was sitting in darkness, and guess what? Yahuwah shined the light through Amram's family and Caleb, and guess what? Everybody was in darkness because Caleb stilled the people. He said, we can go up there once and take the kingdom. Nobody wanted to take the kingdom. Nobody had any confidence. Nobody trusted in Yahuwah. They didn't believe righteousness was before them, and Yahuwah had their back. And guess what happened? Nobody wanted to go. Nobody wanted to go forward. When Mashah, Aaron family, Mashah, Miriam, and Aaron and their family came rising up to shine light on people, to bring them out of Mizraim, the people mumbled and grumbled and started talking about them, running their mouth, and guess what? Nobody wanted to follow them anymore. They wanted to go all the way back to Mizraim, and they hated them. They hated them in their heart. They talked about their family. They ran them down in the mud. And Yahuwah like, I'm tired of them too. It's just like any other thing. When one person rises up or a whole family, people want to take you out because you shine a light on them. Give you the bright waters. And it says, in the son of Nun, it says, so at that time the lamp of the eternal law, the Torah, which existed forever and ever illuminated all those who sat in darkness, this lamp will announce to those who believe the promise of their reward, and those who deny the punishment of the fire which is kept for them. But also the Shamayim will be shaken from the place at that time. That is, the Shamayims which are under the throne of the Mighty One were severely shaken, which took Mashah with him. For he showed him many warnings together with the ways of the Torah and the end of time, as also to you. And then further, also the likeness of Saum with its measurements, which was to be made after the likeness of the present sanctuary. Right. Going to chapter 60. This is chapter 60. In the fifth black waters, which you have seen poured down, those are the works with which the Amorites have done, and the invocations of their incantations which they brought, and the wickedness of their mysteries, and the mingling of their pollutions. But even Yasharal was polluted with the sins of these days, of the judges, although they saw many signs which were from him who created them. Even all that. Right? All these things. But we look at all this, and you start to see why Yahuwah is going through and calling people black waters and bright waters. Black waters rise up, and then white. He said, then bright waters rise up. Black waters, then bright waters. Right. Verse 61 says, "In the six bright waters which you have seen, this is a time in which David and Shalumer were born, Daud. And at that time the building of Saum took place, and the dedication of the sanctuary, and the shedding of much blood of the nations, and which sinned at that time, and many offerings which were offered at that time, in the inaugurations of the sanctuary, and the rest of the peace, and rest and peace reigned at that time, and wisdom was heard in the assembly, in the Aydah, and the richness of understanding was magnified in the Aydah, and the Kudash festivals were fulfilled in happiness and joy, and the judgment of the rulers was seen at that time without deceit, and the righteousness of the commandments of the Mighty One was accomplished in truth, and the land which then received mercy, since its inhabitants did not sin, was praised above all countries." The inhabitants that did what? That did not sin. They were praised above all countries. Now you see why Yirmiyahu say, they say they don't even acknowledge you as a nation. Why do you think Yahushua's like, go and sin no more? Go and sin no more. Why? Because he wants you to be the praise of the nations again. The going. We almost finished. And it says right here, and was praised above all countries, and the city of Sion ruled over all countries. Shall you restore the kingdom at this time? And it says, and the regions at that time, these are the bright waters you have seen. He said, these are. You are the menorah. You are the light of the world. He said, these are the bright waters. He said, these are the bright waters. Right. So this is the last thing. This is the book of. This is the book of. This is. Yeah, this is the book of Acts chapter 22, verse 6. Acts 22 and 6. And as I was on my way and drew near to Damascus, about noon a great light from Shamayim suddenly shone around me. And I fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying to me, Shaul, Shaul, why are you persecuting me? You know why he persecuted him? Because he got no sin. Because he the bright waters. Why do you think he was dragging those people around? Because they were the bright waters. And he was the dark water. Let's see what the bright water said to the dark water. Why are you persecuting me? And I answered, who are you, master? And he said to me, I am Yahushua of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. He said, what you doing that for? And he said, now those who were with me saw the light, but did not understand. The voice of one who was speaking to me. Everybody not going to get up when they hear the voice of Yahushua Mashiach. And everybody not going to understand. Even among those who kept the commandments. Because Shaul and all the men who were around him were keeping the same laws, statutes, and commandments, but for some reason, they were persecuting the bright waters. Because they were in darkness. And it says, speaking to me, and I said, what shall I do, master? And the master said to me, rise and go to Damascus. Then he same thing he told Abraham. Arise, shine. For the light has shone upon you. The light is shining upon Shaul. He's like, man, this goodness. Right, and it says, rise and go to Damascus, and there you will be told all that is appointed for you to do. And since I could not see because of the brightness of the light, I was led by the hand by those who were with me, and came to Damascus. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the Torah, well spoken by all of the Yahudim who lived there. We live a whole bunch of places. He who lived there came to me and standing by me said to me, brother Shaul, receive your sight. He healed him. He said, receive your sight. And the very hour I received my sight and saw him. And he said, the Elohim of our fathers appointed you to know his will, to see the righteous one, and to hear a voice from his mouth. He says, if you can hear his voice and you understand it, and guess what happens? He chose you to hear a voice. And guess what happens? For you will be a witness for him to everyone of what you have seen and heard. And guess what he says? And now, why do you wait? He's like, what you waiting for? Do you just hear what I just said? What are you waiting for? Rise. Rise. That's all he said. Rise. And get what he said. And be immersed and wash away your sins, calling on his name. And when I had returned to Jerusalem and was praying in the temple, I felt a trance and saw him saying to me, make haste and get out of Jerusalem quickly, because they will not accept the testimony about me. He's like, get up out of here. Because Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, and my statutes. He said, they ain't going to believe what you're saying. You going to be wasting your breath. He said, you're going to be wasting your time. You're going to be wasting what you're saying. He's like, they ain't going to believe what you're saying. He's like, man, they ain't going to believe nothing you're saying. You're going to be wasting your time. Right? So, and it says, and I said, Master, they themselves know that in one congregation, Aydah after another, I imprisoned and beat those who believed in you. That's why they won't, he's saying, that's why they won't believe in you, because of what I did. Yahushua. And when the blood of Stephen, your witnesses, was being shed, I myself was standing by and approving and watching over the garments of those who killed him. That's why they ain't going to believe. Yahushua like, that ain't what I told you. Because even Shaul doubt within himself. And he said to me, go. He said, what? Go. For I will send you far away to the Goyim. He said, I'm sending you real far. And get what happens. Right, so this is the last thing. 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 This is Bereshit chapter 2, verse 1. So you say, why are these things happening? All this people think things that just happen. Nothing just happened. This is Bereshit chapter 3, Genesis chapter 3, verse 20. It says, the man called his wife's name Qahalath because she was the mother of all living. Because she was the mother of all living. He called her life giver. And we should say, I come to might have life and have it more abundantly, right? You get what it says. And Yahuwah Elohim made for Adam and his wife Qahalath garments of skin and clothed them. What do you think he told them to get immersed for? He said, arise and be immersed and be clothed. And guess what he said? For all immersion Yahushua had put him on. You put him on. You are now clothed with him. And get what he said. Then Yahuwah said, Elohim said, behold, the man has become like one of us. Because he clothed him. He put on clothes. He gave him what to wear. All that immersion Yahushua had put him on. He has now what? He has now become like one of us. One of what? Isn't that written in your Torah? I said you are Elohim. Is it not written? That's what I made Shaul. I'm going to make you a god. That's what he just did. And he said, go. God, who come in the image and likeness of Yahuwah, who believe on my name. Guess what he said? Behold, man has become like one of us, Adam, knowing good and evil. How do you think Shaul knew it? Yahushua would tell him to go tell people the good news about him. But then Shaul talked about the evil he did to the other people. He has now become like one of us. And then guess what happens? Now lest he reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and live forever. Barak are they that keep his commandments and believe in Yahushua, for they will have right to the tree of life. They're going to eat from the tree of life. And then he says, Therefore, Yahuwah will what? Elohim. Therefore, Yahuwah Elohim sent him out. Therefore, Yahuwah Elohim sent him out of the Garden of Eden. So where did Yahusha send Shaul? He sent him out of the Garden of Eden, and he sent him where? He sent him to the nations. He sent him out of the Garden of Eden to work. Isn't that what he did? To be a servant, abad, the ground, the Adama, which he was taken from. Because everybody's going to the Adama. He said, I'm coming to work and be a servant for you. He drove out the man at the east of the Garden of Eden. What do you think happened to Shaul? He sent him out. He garaged him. He sent him out. He said, you're going to go far. You're going way far. Just like he sent Adam out the garden, garage. Just like he sent him out of Mizraim, garage. Just like he sent Cain out, garage. I'm going to send you far. He says, to the east of the Garden of Eden, and he placed cherubims and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way of the tree of life. He said, you ain't coming back here. You know that place where you left out from? He said, you ain't going to see it no more. He said, you ain't coming back. He said, I kept it. Just so you can't come back, I'm going to keep swinging the sword. So you remember what you did to all those people? I'm going to keep swinging that sword. He said, man, I inquired 3 times. He said, man, I had this infirmity, and I inquired 3 times to be removed from me. He like, man, my kind is sufficient. You got it. You got another chance. You see all that stuff you did before I told you sent you out? Right, so we look at all that. Look at Yahushua Mashiach. Of course, there's a lot more, but we start looking at not being taken to Mizraim again, not having them to rule over us, and rule over our thoughts and our mind, and to tell us to give us commands and obey their voice. But the voice that we need to obey is the Yahushua Mashiach and Yahuwah himself, and then keep his law, statutes, and judgment commandments, and keep the belief on his son Yahushua that one may have right to eat from the tree of life. Because everybody's not gonna have a right to eat from it, let alone partake of it, let alone touch it. But even as Yahushua rose from the grave, when the woman came to him, when she thought he was a gardener, he said, touch me not, for I have not ascended to my Father in Shamayim. He said, don't even touch it. Why? Because I'm showing you that I'm that tree that you cannot take from right now, because you don't have no right to it. Until you believe on my name and believe and keep the commandments according to my name. For to do good works is not just sufficient to say that Yahuwah is good, for that's not sufficient for salvation. To know Yahuwah Elohim through all of the 7 periods and practicing righteousness and doing his commands and believing on his son in that pattern for the rest of your life will allow you to inherit eternal life. It will allow you to inherit an endless life forever and ever with him. Yet you will be persecuted, but yet you will inherit many things and you will be persecuted at the same time. For we look in this world, we live in this world, we are not of it, but we look to inherit something that's greater than us. That's greater than both male and female. That's even greater than just being called in Elohim. That's being greater than even be called something greater, and that's the eternal life. And that's to be in the state that we were before. So shall he restore us to Malkuth at this time, the kingdom? No man know the day nor hour, when he will come and set back up his Malkuth, and he will sit on the throne of David. And then we will know that the Kohen, the actual horn of salvation, has been raised and been sit. And when he sit and establish his altar again on the earth. But we look at this world and we look at our thoughts and our mind, and we seek to purge out the very things and the very thoughts of who we are, and allow nothing to have dominion over us. The only person that has dominion over us is Yahuwah, is Ben Yahusha and his voice, the bar, the Torah, and walking in it accordingly. Because these are the bright waters. Just like the bright waters were in times past, was in force, the bright waters are here again today. For to Abraham and to his seed, not under seeds of many, but of one. And that's Yahushua Mashiach. For those who walk accordingly, even as Abraham walked. For Abraham walked in righteousness, but it was accounted for him for belief. Because he believed Yahuwah, and it was accounted for him for righteousness. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. Just like we write all the time, in Aleph Yuchanan 2:24 through 29, let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son and in the Father. And this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. Verse 26, I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. So that he gave salvation to the two clans, Yahshua and Yehuda. And those who join themselves to them will be able to inherit a promise of eternal life and have a right to the tree of life. And we look at these transitions and we know these things. That the righteousness of Yahuwah is to keep his commandments and obey his voice. Verse 27, but the anointing you have received from him abides in you. You have no need that anyone should teach you. Nobody need to teach you about Deuteronomy 28. You don't need no. The only reason a person, you go into Mizraim again and people ruling over you and you can't obey Yahuwah's voice because you wasn't careful to obey his voice. So therefore you will obey other people's voices. And guess what happens? But the anointing you received in him abides in you, his voice. And you have no need that anyone should teach you. But the anointing that teaches you about everything and is true, there's no lie, just as it is taught you, abide in him. Stay in him. Verse 28, and now little children. Why do you think Yahushua was able to send Shaul up? Now little children, abide in him, because he was abiding in him. So that when he appears, we have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. If you know that he is righteous, because you know Yahushua practiced righteousness, you may be sure that everyone who practiced righteousness the correct way, as bright waters, not with no other gods and idols, has been born of him. Because you can still practice righteousness and still not be born of him. Because Shaul practiced righteousness, but he had to be immersed again and become a child, and then be practiced righteousness and be born of Yahuwah Elohim. He said he's become like one of us. He has become like one of us. Right? So all that immersion in Yahushua has become, like they said in Bereshit, like one of us. Right? And it says right here, has been born of him. Right? So just like it says in Hebrews chapter 5, I'm going to read that right quick. Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 1. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 1. Actually, Hebrews chapter 5, sorry, and Hebrews chapter 5, verse 1. This is right. This is Hebrews. That's not what I want. Sorry. This is Hebrews chapter 5, verse. Sorry, yeah, it is Hebrews chapter 5, verse 11. Sorry. It says, about this time we have much to say, and it's hard to explain, since you have become dull of hearing. For though by the time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of the oracles of Elohim. And you need milk and not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness. What do you mean? Righteousness. The word of righteousness. And it says, since he is a child. He said, you've just been born. He says, but solid food is for the mature. For those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice of righteousness in the 7 periods in a 364-day cycle. To distinguish from good and evil. He has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Right? And it says, and be in verse 29, in Aleph Yukanan 2:29, if you know that he is righteous, you may be sure that everyone who practices righteousness has been born of him, because they now have the, good and evil. You understand it. You can have your practice, you're practicing it, and you can discern. And you can see that these people are not born of you. Yahushua Mashiach. Right, so we look at all that, we look at Yahushua Mashiach, and we look at his life. And we look at being born of him. For even when Yahushua died and rose again, he said, I'm going to bring you back, and I'm going to restore the kingdom of Malkuth back to you. For he placed Adam in his own image and likeness on the 6th day. And he gave him authority over the Dagah, the fishes of the sea, the oath, the birds of the Shamayim, the behemoth of the earth, and over the Ramiz, and over all the earth, the whole Malkuth. And we were supposed to be a mamlakah, a kingdom of priests on the earth, and rule the earth in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. Every single year. For we look at all these things in the transitions of life, and we look at a child leading us back where the whole earth be filled with the knowledge of Yahuwah. And the men will beat their swords and their pruning hooks and their knives and their plowshares, and they will study war no more. For we look at ourselves, and we look at ourselves in this battle for our life, and we should walk according to the beginning. For this is that what you heard from the beginning abide in you. For what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son and the Father. For Yahuwah said, I am Yahuwah, I change not. The only people who have changed are the people whom he chose. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.